In five, four, three, two, one. And welcome back to another episode of the Mystic Hour with your boy, Mystic Black, and the man. Wait, I got it this time.
Wait,
I
it's a
got it
mirror
this time.
effect, so
It's very effective the other way. Big Marcus in the
I don't know. I
building.
don't know what's my right or my left.
Who knows nowadays? You don't even know what day it is. But hey, we are in day 900 of quarantine. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Glad you've been here with us during this time. It's episode 8. We made it. Hopefully, we make it to episode 100. Who knows? But it's episode 8 now. So let's get it started. We had some really good fights this past weekend. Probably one of the best cards that was for free, that was not on pay per view, provided by the UFC on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Main card, main event, Tyron Woodley took on Colby Covington in a fight that was long time coming, 2 years in the making. Everybody anticipated this fight, and it went a way that Tyron Woodley's past couple fights has went. Like literally the same exact thing. Colby Covington dominated Tyron Woodley for 4.5 rounds, and Tyron Woodley ended up submitting because of a rib injury, but he was getting dominated throughout the whole entire fight. Nick, how'd you feel about that?
Yeah, it's kind of sad to see because I was hoping, given the motivation by Woodley going into this fight, that we would have seen some of the old Woodley, and unfortunately, we didn't. I don't know what's wrong with him. I was watching some of the press conferences after the fight, and Dana White was saying that he sort of has to have a talk with him because he just doesn't seem mentally there. Obviously, he's physically fit, but these last 3 fights, I mean, it's like he's just been absent when he's actually inside the ring.
Yeah, it's really weird. I know Dana White. Well, when Tyron Woodley came out in that first round, he actually was pushing forward a little bit, but that just only played into Colby Covington's game, into a takedown, straight into a takedown. Tyron was throwing his hands a little bit, but there was just no firepower behind everything he was doing. It was very weird. It's like something is mentally blocking him. You don't know what it is. Maybe he needs to see a sports psychologist. He doesn't look out of shape. He didn't look winded in any round. He didn't look tired in any round. He just looked overmatched by. In the same way he's looked against Burns, same way he looked against Usman, he looks really outmatched. And I guess he needs to find that motivation on why he's still fighting. And until he finds that, I don't think he needs to take any fights maybe until 2021, because I don't want to see Tyron Woodley go 0-4 in a whole year. It can happen, but he's got to take his time and weed his way back into it. Maybe he has to switch camps. Maybe he has to kind of spread out who he's training with too, because he likes to train by himself in St. Louis, Missouri. When I say by himself, I mean not with like 5 to 6 different training partners coming in and giving you different looks. He had Masvidal with him in this training camp. That's just one look. Maybe he needs a couple other different bodies to mess around with, to throw around, and that'll give him a different kind of motivation.
Yeah, I think so. Something's got to give, right? Whether it's his training camp or some of his coaches. But something's definitely got to change, because obviously 0-3 for his last 3 fights. I mean, we're talking about former champion, former repeat champion too. It's like you said, like he wasn't gassed, he wasn't out of shape, he didn't come in overweight. He came in how he was supposed to. But mentally, if you're not there, then what are you doing? Like it's almost better that you're physically not there than you're mentally not there, because I mean it's just. I don't know, man. I know that he doesn't want to retire. There's no reason for him to retire. But he's definitely not going to be fighting, at least for his next fight, one of these upper echelon fighters. I don't think he needs that, because I think that if he continues with this current state of mind, he's going to get that 0-4 record in his last 4 fights. So hopefully somebody towards the bottom, not completely towards the bottom, because I feel like that would be more demoralizing. But something's need to change, and if he can't change it, if he can't find it, what's wrong? Then just retire, man. I mean, he doesn't have anything to prove in this game anymore. He's been a repeat champion, and he's got other avenues that he can take.
Absolutely. And not besides Tyron Woodley, we can't take away from how amazing Colby Covington did and how amazing he looked. He just recently switched camps from American Top Team to MMA Masters, and it looks like they're doing amazing work with him, because he looked good everywhere. He looked good standing. He looked good. He was good defensively, evading any power shots that Tyron would throw at him. His timing was so good, and he kind of changed it up to where he was timing those takedowns rather than just bum rushing people like he did before. So that's something I've seen that they worked on too. So Colby Covington's game is getting better. I think you mentioned this last time. Colby Covington is ascending. Tyron Woodley's got a descending. So he definitely proved that in that fight, and we cannot take that away from Colby Covington. I know a lot of talk about Colby is his post-fight comments and or pre-fight comments, but at the end of the day, in that octagon, he is a really top-tier welterweight, and he is right there once again, very close to fighting for another title shot. But speaking of that, he actually ended up jumping Gilbert Burns in the rankings, which is crazy because Gilbert Burns beat Tyron Woodley, who was number one. So Gilbert Burns got that ranking. And then Colby Covington beat Tyron Woodley, who is not number one anymore. And all of a sudden, he's number one in the rankings. That's wild to me. I don't understand how the UFC is putting together these who's voting on these rankings, because that doesn't make any sense. The number one contender should be ranked number one if that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's weird. I thought that he was basically going to stay in place because obviously you're fighting a descending Woodley. You just beat him. I mean, you beat him convincingly and you had an incredible performance. And I think that should be rewarded. But until Burns and Usman actually fought, I felt like those rankings should have not changed. But that being said, I mean, also I can see why they're pushing him because on top of that, he's an entertaining person. Whether you like it or not, the way that he entertains, he definitely brings a lot of attention to the league. And on top of that, he's a really good fighter. Apart from his antics and his characteristics, he's a phenomenal fighter. And I think that he's actually, I don't think it's bullshit when people, when he says that he can beat Usman or what does he call him? I call him Kumar Snoozman.
Snoozman.
He calls him fake newsman.
Fake newsman,
right, yeah. So I think that is a possibility because given their last fight, I mean, he was winning that fight until obviously Usman was able to finish it, luckily before the end of the fifth round. I think maybe Gilbert Burns is the only person that could perhaps really test his skill. Jorge Masvidal, we would love to see that. I would love to see that fight too, especially given their history. But even then, I mean, I know that people might have some sort of resentment towards him, but when you just look at the skill of the fighter and that perspective alone, it's really hard to see somebody beating Colby Covington right now. I think that the move that he made obviously has benefited him tremendously. Not that he needed to improve that much from the last time he fought, but yeah, I just think that he's continuing on the rise, and I suppose that's what they saw, and that's why they pushed him. Even though I felt it was premature because, like I said, we haven't had that Burns-Usman fight. I think obviously seeing that fight, how it goes, if it's a tight fight, maybe the rankings should have stayed the same. Obviously, if Burns or Usman beats the hell out of each other in that fight, and it's like it's pretty easy, then obviously that changes as well. But yeah, I felt it was a little bit premature to change that before this fight.
Absolutely. And speaking of post-fight antics, Colby Covington, of course, had a lot to say after his win against Tyron Woodley. Of course, he was screaming, doing his thing. Telling Usman, "I'm coming for you. I'm coming for that belt." And he had a lot of other comments in regards to, Donald Trump, who he supports, Tyron Woodley's antics before the fight, where he wore the Black Lives Matter shirt and the hat. He had some things to say about Usman. He had some things to say about the police and supporting the police. A lot of different things that he said in that post-fight press conference, and everybody had things to say on opposite ends. Nick, how do you feel about the post-fight comments that Colby Covington made during the presser?
I mean, I see why people could be upset. I see why, obviously, he struck a nerve with a lot of people. But this is a violent sport, and with this violent sport comes a lot of violent commentary. I mean, I hate to be that guy that doesn't want to come off as insensitive, but I mean, this is it's kind of like it took me back to when Masvidal beat Ben Askren, right? He was practically knocked out after he took that knee to the face, and yet he kept punching him. And then later on, until I think it was Herzog that was officiating that fight, but until the referee called off the fight, he kept hitting Ben Askren, and people asked him, was that really necessary? And of course, he came up with, that trademark, super necessary. He says that his job is to hurt people, and that's and he's going to keep fighting until the ref calls it off, and that's his job because that's just how the sport is. And if you don't like it, go watch soccer or something like that. It was his sort of I guess, his view on that. And I think that a lot of people have to be, yes, I'm not saying that you can be, you can make these type of comments and get away with or that they're okay to say, but at the same time you can get away with it because this is a violent sport, and unlike any other thing or any other environment, you can actually get hit in the face for saying the things that you do. So I suppose that's maybe where Dana White, because Dana White also said, that they don't like to muzzle anybody here in this league. Clearly, we've had really controversial comments before from other fighters. I mean, I know that there was especially a lot of black fighters that were upset with his comments with reason, But I mean, you have, like Adesanya. I think before he fought Yoel Romero, he used the term or he used the reference to the Twin Towers. He said that he was going to knock Yoel Romero down like the Twin Towers. Obviously that's going to hit a nerve with a lot of people. That's going to be sensitive, and then you also have people like Conor McGregor who makes these claims about Nurmagomedov's family, Khabib's family, about being terrorists, his wife being a Tao, given her religious attire.
That one always was the
one. That one was you feel like you needed to take a shower after reading that, but that's I guess what I'm trying to get at is that, like, don't be surprised. Yes, if you want to be offended, that's your right to be offended. Obviously, everybody has something to, but I think that essentially what happens is that you can't be surprised. You can't be surprised by violent commentary.
Yeah, a couple different things that I agree with you on there, and I disagree. Tyron Woodley, I mean, Colby Covington before this fight actually didn't speak that much. Like he's been pretty quiet, which is not like Colby Covington. He usually talks a lot before fights. He was pretty silent until he won the fight. I think he was. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Excuse me. I think he was waiting for that post fight to see if he was going to say the things that he wanted to say. Obviously, Colby Covington is a guy that kind of like has these things in his mind before he says them. Kind of like sometimes Conor McGregor does it. Like these guys think about these things before they say it. 100%. There's no way he was just like, oh, I'm going to say this off the bat. Now you're going to get this. No, he's been thinking about these things for a long time. In the case of Tyron Woodley too, for him to make the statement that he did, or the hat that he wore, the shirt that he wears, Colby Covington has a right to say what he wants as well. So I can't, knock him for those things. Unfortunately, Tyron Woodley ended up losing the fight. So for him doing something like that, it kind of hurts because, he wanted to win for specific reasons, even though before the fight he said that wasn't the reason he wanted to win. But obviously that was a part of that. But Colby Covington sometimes I feel crosses the line in some things that he says. I know Conor McGregor has said stuff in the past. I know Adesanya has said stuff in the past, but Colby Covington crosses lines to where it's just like, especially in this time period too, in this time period where it's a scary world. It's honestly a scary world. And Dana White knows this. The UFC knows this. They know what's happening in this world, this time period right now. They've shown stuff before the UFC broadcast, like rest in peace, George Floyd, and things like that. So for a fighter to make comments like he did, in a sense of saying Black Lives Matter people are terrorists and evil, and he said something with regard to like smoke signals with Kamaru Usman because he's African. That's just like in this time period to what everything is happening in this world. That is, if I was running the UFC, you're getting fined for things like that, and everybody else is getting fined for things like that too. That's where it starts. So where now we're going too far, and people are going to start getting fined. Just like in the NBA, when you say things, NFL when you do things, the UFC, I get it. It's a fight sport, so you got to be insensitive. But when it comes to those comments, I personally don't like them. I don't want to hear those things. I don't watch fights to hear people be that way towards each other for just to get a rise out of people. And I don't know if Colby Covington is being real about when he says things like that. Like, listen, if he supports the police force, support the police force. That's fine, but you don't have to say Black Lives Matter are terrorists. You don't have to go that far and say those kind of things. And you're just pushing way too many limits when you say things like that. So there's no reason for you to be able to show support for what you believe in, which is he believes in Donald Trump and his organization. He believes in supporting the police. That's fine, but he does not need to go that far into certain things that he says. I think that's way too far, and especially in this time period.
Well, I think what happens too is that we've gotten to the point of generalizing, no matter what side you come from, and I think like I understand, obviously, I understand why people are upset with his comments and everything like that. And I think what happens is that he's just as passionate. Like, for instance, obviously, the Black Lives Matter movement is a very passionate one, but you might say that he's very passionate about his movement. And so what happens is that, unfortunately, instead of people promoting their beliefs, the way that they promote it is by demonizing other beliefs. And I think that's where it goes wrong. Because obviously, for whatever reason or not, he feels very strongly about first responders, the police. He's very patriotic,
Yeah.
which is fine and everything like that. Like I said, I don't think you need to demonize. It's sort of like, I suppose, maybe he feels the same way. When he goes out and he tells people and he speaks that or he says that Black Lives Matter is a Marxist or terrorist movement. It's sort of like when Black Lives Matter. I'm not saying all of Black Lives Matter. I'm saying certain members of Black Lives Matter are all, with the whole ACAB, all cops are bastards type of mentality. And of course, like I said, like somebody at some point is going to get really offended by it. And then what happens is that it's best to try to listen to each other. But obviously we're living in a period, like I said, that people are looking for affirmation rather than information. And so for whatever reason, he might feel that he has the entitlement to be just as offended as all these black athletes, or you don't even have to be black to be offended by his comments. Because like you could even go as far as when he went to Brazil to fight Maya, and he said that Brazil was a shithole and that the Brazilian people are filthy animals. Obviously, this guy is not a good-hearted person, and obviously his intention is not necessarily. I don't think I think it's beyond just trying to sell and create this sort of hate, like this sort of villain type role. It could be that that's just genuinely how he feels, which is unfortunate. But like I said, what happens is that he probably feels just as emotional about certain things as the black community or as just oppressed communities feel in this country. So I think what happens is that as right as it would be kind of taking like an NBA stance at it, not having a tolerance for it, what happens is that there's a very fine line then of what can you say and what can't you. And then obviously when you have somebody that's a cash cow like Conor McGregor saying the things that he says, I mean, we might think, or I personally think somebody like that who makes comments like that, whether they're trying to upsell or they apologize after, it doesn't take the fact away that they said it. Once something comes out of your mouth, or worse, once you tweet something, that's going to be on there forever. It doesn't matter how fast you delete it. It's going to be out there in the universe forever. So that's the question is like, I don't think that we should necessarily value certain insensitivities over others because, like I said, if we were to really muzzle people, I suppose, like Dana White said, then Conor McGregor shouldn't be fighting. People shouldn't be fans of Conor McGregor because of the things that he said and the actions that he's taken. So that's why I think it's a struggle. Not necessarily that I think it's right that these people are allowed to say what they do and be that ignorant or share that sort of bigotry. But I think that's the struggle that UFC has in saying like, okay, well, if they can't say this about that, then what am I going to do when Conor McGregor or Israel Adesanya makes that type of comment? And I can't really necessarily take this guy out because at the end of the day, people really, the only way that they make a change or affect something is when their pockets are affected. And obviously UFC and Dana White are not going to try to get rid of somebody like Colby Covington who brings entertainers for better reasons or not, somebody like Conor McGregor, somebody like Israel Adesanya. It's a really difficult strategy, I suppose you have to take. And I guess what happens is that it's either you allow everything or you don't allow anything.
Yeah, the UFC definitely are cash cows. They don't really care about a lot of things so sometimes they do care, which is so weird because there's been times where people have been fined for a tweet or something like that, or been suspended for a little bit for saying certain things. There's been guys who were in what is that cult? The cult with the oh my god, the Nazi. There's been a fighter who was part of like a whole Nazi cult, and he got immediately banned from neo-Nazis was immediately banned from the UFC. So when they do, I'm not comparing these two things, but I'm saying it in a sense of if you're going to give somebody shit for saying something, you got to give everybody shit for saying something, and you got to point out what's real is real. Dana White was talking and saying, "Oh, we don't muzzle anybody." Listen, Dana White, the things that Colby Covington said out of his mouth was racist. He did make racist remarks. So literally, he made them. So there's no if, ands, or but about that. That's a clear thing. So something's got to happen with that. And if Adesanya makes comments, something's got to happen with that. Like, you have to start like marking down these people, especially in this time period. People are going to stop watching your sport, or you're going to lose fans for things like that. Or you're going to have fighters like Duadu the other day, just like, yeah, man, I didn't like those comments. Those are very racist. So if I see him, it's like on site, and it's creating more friction for the fighters too. Like, for Colby Covington to go anywhere, if there's some kind of fight, there's some press conference, and there's black athletes there, they're going to want to kill him, for saying the stuff that he says. So until something happens, I don't think the UFC will do anything. But I feel like something will happen soon enough. So he's got to be very careful. I mean, they got to be very careful with how they kind of like have those guidelines of what people can and can't say. So when Dana White says the whole "we don't muzzle people," you muzzle who you want. Let's not beat around the bush. We can see that. But I hope that I hope that changes, and I hope that improves. But that's whatever. And Colby Covington's going to be like that no matter what. I don't think that's going to change.
I mean, what you also got to think too, it doesn't help that. Well, first of all, Colby, all of the comments that he made after his fight, I suppose, even though obviously people, you can tell what's racist and whatnot. I think like he tried to generalize it as much as possible so he can sort of cop out from his comments and say, "Oh, your little tribe." Like, I could mean like your friends, or I can mean and smoke signals. Like, obviously we all know that he's degrading Usman and culture and being Nigerian and African and everything like that. He even went ahead and said that, like, I didn't care if King Kong was in that ring, and we all know like the reference that's to, but he can, but then he also said Superman. So like, that's, I suppose, the sort of cop out that he can have. But like I said, when Dana White is politically aligned with, I don't think Dana White obviously is at the level that Colby Covington is at, of course. But when they're politically aligned, also too, perhaps there's going to be some sort of unfair defense on his end for him. But also Dana White is a guy that I looked at his press conference this past weekend, and the way that he talks about fighters, like, he definitely does not, as opposed to like, let's say, a commissioner like Adam Silver, who's very delicate with the way that he speaks. Dana White is the complete opposite. I mean, he'll talk about fighters whether they're there or not.
But it's weird because he's so emotional. He's such an emotional guy, and how he reacts to stuff. But then,
That's what I'm saying, is that like emotion sort of ties into this sport. And so I understand what you're saying about with the potential of losing fighters, but you also have to think about the potential. I mean, not losing fighters, losing fans. But you also have to think about the potential, unfortunately, of gaining fans, because, as we've learned in recent times, hate is a way more powerful emotion than love or likability. It's definitely a more passionate. And so sometimes, by promoting hate or promoting this sort of hate talk, like we've heard from Colby Covington, you're actually going to get people who are going to jump on board. So I don't think he's necessarily worried about losing fans, because he knows that, as some move out, others come in. So it's like I said, it's definitely a gray area. It's not a black or white area. No pun intended. But I really didn't mean to go there. I'm not trying to put Kobe.
Literally,
okay. It's definitely a difficult spot to be in.
Yeah. My only thing that I'm gonna end with is Colby Covington. You don't gotta be racist to get fans, brother. Like, you'll be okay. Like, you don't have to weed that hard. Apparently you do, right? But you're weak. You're getting a little crazy. Calm that down a little bit, man. Calm that down a little bit. But anyways,
it's definitely unnecessary. Like, his talent alone should be enough to drive people.
Exactly. Like, you're so great. You're so good in that cage, man. Like, keep showing that and keep propelling yourself to the top. And you don't have to take that route to be to cement your legacy. So that's But
busy with the mamacitas.
But in the co-main event, we had Donald Cerrone take on Nico Price, and it went to a majority draw. Donald Cerrone looked a little bad in that first round. Then he started to pick it up in the second and third rounds, probably more better in the third round. He got an eye poke. They took a point away from Nico Price, and it ended up becoming a majority draw. When they announced the draw, Nico Price was like super excited, like, which is the weirdest thing ever. But we'll get into that in a second. Yeah. But after seeing that performance of Donald Cerrone, that's what, 5 in a row now that he's lost. Where does he go from here?
Well, I mean, Dana even said that he's going to have that talk with Donald. I mean, we all know that Donald's not going to want to retire. This guy's just a champion at heart. I mean, he's always down for fighting. He doesn't get distraught by losses. He's a wild guy. Obviously, he's a cowboy. Like he's literally like, if we were living in the times of the Wild Wild West, he'd be one of the very few survivors nowadays. So he's going to obviously want to keep fighting. He's going to want to keep going at it, and I think that he can keep going at it. But at the same time, at what point do you because what do you do if you're Dana White? You know, obviously you want him to retire because it's like, dude, you're taking up places in cards where I can be having somebody who's got potential, some younger fighters coming up and taking up your place, and you're here clogging it up. And if you're Donald Cerrone, you don't really want to go out on an 0-5 losing streak, you know? Yeah. So do you put him with somebody else who's at the bottom of their career and perhaps have him win? I mean, I think that was the disappointment in Cerrone's face when he saw that it was a draw. Is not necessarily that you know, it's like, it almost, to me, it almost looked like he would have preferred a loss than a draw, because he's not that kind of guy. He's not like, don't give me a participation trophy, don't give me a draw, give me either the loss or give me the win.
Yeah, and it's you definitely saw the disappointment in his face 100%. What was very interesting was him in the post-fight conference, and he said, I need to take some time off. Maybe I'll be back in 2021. Cowboy is a guy who's like, yo, I'll take a fight next week. Yeah. I think he's mentally starting to notice that, you know what? Damn, maybe I'm getting to that point where I gotta, you know, rack it up and just like end my career sometime soon, because to take that damage and then to go into a draw and just not look like you used to, and fighting at welterweight too, where he's not cutting that much weight and he should have more energy and be more flowy. He just didn't look good. He didn't look good at all. He looked slow. He looked confused. Nico Price looked like he was outstriking him. Donald Cerrone is a great kickboxer, and he did not look good in that fight. And for him to say, maybe I need to see a sports psychologist again, something's not going right. Everything in camp went well, and, you know, sparring went well. First time he sparred in a long time. And for him to look that way, I think maybe give Donald Cerrone 1 or 2 more fights next year, and then he spends time with he's made plenty of money, plenty of freaking money in the UFC. With 36 fights, he's made so much money. He has his own ranch. He has his second child that was born recently. He said in the post-fight conference too, I can't wait to go home and see my son and just spend time with him. Like, he literally drove that night 9 hours to his ranch to go see his son. So I feel like he has a different view of life now, and we have officially entered father time, Daddy Cerrone. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't need to see Donald Cerrone take any more shots to the head. I don't need to see Donald Cerrone get beat up by these younger guys. I hope Cerrone 1 or 2 more fights next year, and then ride off into that sunset with your children. But Nico Price, got a lot to say about Nico Price. I am a fan of him. I love his style. He pushes forward. He's always down to scrap. He always puts his heart out there. He's always just push forward. And he's very kill or be killed. But for him to be so excited about a draw is crazy to me. Why are we excited about a draw? That's the weirdest post-fight I've ever seen in my life. He's just looking at Cerrone and just like, oh my God, I just fought Donald Cerrone. This is amazing. Nico Price, you've been fighting for a long time. You fought maybe not guys as legendary as Donald Cerrone, but it kind of was like that McGregor effect. It's just like, oh my God, I'm just happy to be here. This is a spectacle. Wow, I get to fight you. This is great. That's wild to me. Don't come into a fight with I want to knock this guy out, and all of a sudden you fight him and it just like smiles and happy after a draw. No more, I'm just happy to be here. You're a younger fighter. You're a guy who can climb the rankings. You haven't made it into the top 15 yet. I hope you make it in the top 15 with a different kind of mindset. But the whole I'm just happy to be here thing, not a fan of it.
Well, I mean, I think what happens is that he had the opposite mindset, obviously, than Cowboy, right? Like he probably went into that decision making thinking that he lost the fight because of the 2 eye pokes. And I think that he actually, I thought he was actually going to take Cowboy in the first like 2 minutes of that fight.
Yeah, the first 2 minutes.
Yeah. Cowboy was just like, Jesus Christ, here we go again. It's going to be another early knockout, which would have upset me because I'm just never due to get a perfect prediction card. I almost went I almost went 5-0 for this one, except for that stupid draw. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's why he's happy, because he probably thought that it was a loss, and that I mean, granted, would I have been as joyous as he was for a draw? I'd be happy because it's not a loss on my column. But yeah, like you said, it's almost like I'm just happy to be here. I'm riding along, and it's kind of sad. Like, which I do appreciate that gratitude, but at the same time, it sort of takes away from people who perhaps haven't gotten as many shots as he has, as many opportunities, as many chances to redo himself, and it's sort of, like those fighters, they go out in vain when you have a guy like Nico Price celebrating a draw like that.
I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. But from there, we're just gonna move on. I'm disappointed in Nico Price. We need better, Nico. We need better. But anyways, we had a really good, not as competitive as anybody thought that it would be, and I think I predicted this one pretty well. That Mackenzie Dern is just a push forward. I'm going to go for the finish kind of girl. She fought Randa Marcos. Yeah. We thought we were going to see more of Mackenzie Dern striking since she's been working with Jason Perillo, but she ended up throwing a high kick. She fell to the floor, and Randa Marcos did the thing that nobody thought she would do, is go to the ground with Mackenzie Dern, which is a death sentence. A death sentence. And as soon as she got there, Mackenzie Dern went to work, put her in an armbar. Randa Marcos lasted a pretty good time in that armbar, but the inevitable happened, and she tapped, and Mackenzie Dern beat her pretty fast in that first round.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be. I had Mackenzie in this one as well. I didn't think it was going to be this fast. I thought it was going to be second round. But I mean, Jesus, once she grabbed on, she didn't let go. Yeah, I mean, that's just how incredible Mackenzie's ground game is. Obviously, she's just going to keep on propelling. She's definitely a name to be looked at, to look out for in upcoming cards and future cards. Yeah, I mean, it was almost, but I almost got to give it to Marcos for lasting as long as she did, because I just kept thinking, like, here it is. Nope. Here it is. Nope, not this time. Here it is. Nope, not again. And, like, eventually, yeah, Mackenzie got her, but and it was brutal. Like, it hurt me watching that fight. It really did. She just would not let go. She was a lot. She had her pretty locked in, especially with those legs at the beginning, where she's just you see Marcos trying to get up. What's that?
I said, "Oh yeah," with those legs.
Oh yeah, with those legs. But anyways, that's a fine right there. No, but yeah, like, yeah, it's true. Like, it's just incredible, her ground game, and I'd hate to be on the ground with her. I'd hate to be any fighter. Like, if I'm a fighter that's up and that's gonna be fighting Mackenzie Dern in the future, I definitely would avoid ground at all costs.
Oh, 100%. I would stay away from there. But I wish I was able to see her striking. But I guess we'll see that in another fight. But that's a dangerous place to go. Next for Mackenzie Dern, hopefully somebody in the top 10. Now she's ranked number 14 in that division. I see her fighting anybody in that top 10, or maybe in the bottom half of that 10 to 15. But she's somebody I feel like they can propel her pretty fast, because she's got experience in combat sports, and she looked like she's doing well and getting really comfortable with it. So, like I said yesterday in my Instagram live, Angela Hill, Mackenzie Dern, I'm in.
Why not, right? I mean, they're right next to each other. I'm looking right now. They're right next to each other in the rankings. I mean, Mackenzie has lost to. Oh no, she already fought Hibas. She lost to Hibas. That's her only loss. Yep. Yeah, I mean, why not Angela Hill? Especially the fact that Angela Hill didn't really get beat up in her last fight. I think that would be really cool to see. But I mean, I think Mackenzie Dern. I mean, I would worry for Angela Hill if they did fight. I mean, I know that Angela Hill is an incredible fighter. She's not scared of anybody. But Mackenzie also has a lot of momentum coming behind her. So I don't know. It's like I don't want to be offensive in saying, Angela Hill, don't take somebody that's up and coming. Try to, finally get a win, fight somebody that's of a lower standard. But that's not the way that Angela Hill is.
It doesn't work for you. It doesn't work for her like that. So, but besides that phenom of Mackenzie Dern, the phenom Hazmat. Hazmat. The show continues for Hazmat, defeating Gerald Meerschaert in 17 seconds by KO. He hit him 4 times in that fight. He did not get hit once again. Hazmat doesn't get hit in a fight. He finished him pretty fast in the middleweight division, which is not his natural weight class, but he didn't have to cut too much weight for this. He looked very impressive. His first fight, we saw him with a submission. His first fight, we saw him with a TKO. Second, a submission. Now with the knockout. Where does this show stop? Does it ever stop? Huh?
Is there anything he can't do?
Nope. You just smash.
Yeah, it's a smish. I like that. Yeah, man. I mean, talk about Joe Merchant. Really blowing an opportunity to talk about experience and maturity. And man, he shut him up really quick with that bullshit. Like, how are you gonna sign him to another fight, making me a write-off? I mean, that was such a write-off. It was ridiculous how quick that was, and it was just so easy. And it's scary because it's like, who's this guy? Like, I mean, granted, you don't want to rush him because obviously with potential like that, you don't want to taint him so early on and give him perhaps an opportunity where it's gonna be a loss so early on in his career. But it begs the question, like, could this guy, is he even hypothetically ready for a title shot? Because I mean, he's beating these guys. So I mean, he's gonna fight Damian Maia. Is that set in stone or no?
That is not set in stone. That was something that they wanted to set up, but after his performance of the 17-second knockout, they're like, well, you know what? Maybe we gotta give him somebody a little higher up. Yeah.
Which I honestly like. I know. Granted, I'm sure that he's gonna want the highest guy in the rankings, but I'm of the mindset that, like, you know what? Yeah, fight Damian Maia, keep progressing. Don't try to rush, because I feel that if he does rush, then, not to say that I think anybody can beat him, but I think what happens is that, perhaps he does. Sometimes it's all about timing over talent. So maybe he gets knocked out or he gets submitted, and then that really messes with his focus and with his what's his name, with his confidence. So I think he goes with Damian Maia next. I think that's the best move for him. But yeah, man, I'm always going to tune in, no matter what card. Even have to pay for it. I mean, this guy is pay-per-view material.
Absolutely. I think Damian Maia actually ruined his chances of probably fighting him, because in his last fight, after he fought Gilbert Burns, he was just like, you know what? I'll take one more fight, then I'm going to retire. You tell UFC something like that, they're not going to give you a hazmat kind of fight.
They're going to want to let you down easy.
Yeah, maybe let him down easy, or give him somebody, for him to kind of ride into that sunset, because Damian Maia has been nothing but respectful and graceful in his career. So I highly doubt that happens now. They got to be very careful and pushing him too much too, because there's been guys like Albert Terminoff and there's a couple of these Dagestanian guys who come in with these undefeated records, and then they start fighting the upper echelon of weight classes, and then they start losing, or they look different. So I say ease him in, give him a main event, but give him a main event of a fight night card. He does well against somebody in the top 10, like a Magny or a Jeff Neal.
Mm-hmm.
Give him platinum Mike Perry. Let them whoop Perry a little bit, especially in this path.
Is Perry even going to be back? I mean,
yeah. He just announced yesterday that he signed a fight contract, so he's got a fight coming up. So I guess it's not going to be. Well, it might be Hazmat. Who knows? He could have signed that contract to fight him. We don't know yet. Watch has been reported as soon as we're done, because as per usual, they like to report everything when we're done with our podcast. But
naturally, of course,
naturally. But I say, yeah, give him somebody in the top 10, main event, fight night card. He does really well there. Put him on a co-main event of a pay-per-view. He does really well there. What's up, title shot? There's no reason to not give him that. His stock is just rising and rising and rising after every single fight. And the fights are not getting longer; they're getting shorter. And he's showing you different aspects of his game. And as he speaks after, unfortunately, he sounds like Khabib. He doesn't want to be compared to him. His style is different than Khabib's. Honestly, it is. But he does sound like him. Hopefully, he just, he's his own Hazmat, and he's not a new Khabib. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear he is Hazmat. God damn it. And don't compare him.
It actually is. I'm looking at the spelling. It actually is Hamzat, not Hazmat.
Oh, it's Hamzat.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was right. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank God. But no, I don't see him fighting Damian Maia next. I don't think he should fight Damian Maia next. I know Damian Maia is ranked number 7, so it'd be cool to take his rankings. But listen, he's got to fight more in that welterweight division and build his way up. Take your time, UFC. Don't push him too fast.
Yeah, I definitely think don't rush him. Don't give him Damian Maia either, because, I mean, Jesus, you might as well just put him in front of a firing squad for that.
I know. Well, this weekend we
What
got
about the history?
UFC 253, Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. It's going to be taking place in Fight Island, Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. It'll be regular time for everybody in the United States. They're not doing the time that they're doing for Habib and Justin Gaethje, which is going to be at a different time. We'll discuss that when that fight is closer. But we got a good one this weekend. We got a top-heavy main card for sure. Adesanya taking on Costa. They've had a rivalry for a while. Costa's been in the audience of Adesanya's fight and just, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. You're next. They ended up not fighting because Costa got injured. Adesanya ended up fighting Yoel Romero instead. He defeated him, and not the most entertaining fight. But now we're here. We got Adesanya Costa. What was that?
The most boring fight in UFC history.
Oh, I could name one other. And Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. You ever watch that fight?
Yeah,
you would never think in a million years that fight would be boring, but that was a pretty bad one. But it's still up there within those boring fights. But anyways, we have this fight that there's no way it's not going to be exciting because we got Paulo Costa who pushes forward when he fights. Adesanya is a really good counter striker, so their styles are going to feed into each other so well.
Yeah, definitely. This is going to be really exciting because I love these undefeated matchups. I really do because everything's on the line for both fighters. I believe that Adesanya is 19-0 and Costa is 12-0.
Yeah.
So, right? I think
13. I think 13-0, but close enough.
Right, exactly. But I mean, the only advantage that I give to Adesanya here, really, obviously, besides being the champion, is that he's fought bigger names. But this is going to be really tough to decide, at least for me, because Costa has pretty much, with the exception of Yoel Romero, has knocked out or submitted all of his other competition. And that's crazy to me. Like the fact that like you haven't even, besides one fight of your 12 or 13, only one has gone to the decision.
Yep.
So
against a tough guy in your URL.
Yeah, Yoel Romero. Yeah, exactly. So it's really hard, man. Like I don't know if you saw. Actually, I did a poll. I mean, on my Instagram, and it was actually pretty tight. I got over. I think it was close to like 20 votes, and it was 55-45 to Adesanya. But I mean, it was pretty. Every time I checked in, it was sort of like neck and neck. Now I don't know if people are just voting with their emotions because they want to see a new champion. Because I feel like there should be a real discrepancy between who do you think will win and who do you want to win.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously people are always gonna sometimes they have a hard time separating that emotion from.
Did you not see me last Wednesday?
I was like, I don't know anybody like that, right?
Bullshit.
So I mean, it happened with me with Masvidal too, with Usman and everything like that. Which I think Masvidal can beat Usman, but obviously it was ridiculous for me to think that on 6 days' notice, flying halfway around the world to beat him was definitely a long shot. But I mean, who do you have a prediction for this fight or not?
Absolutely. I think that Paulo Costa has not fought the competition that Israel Adesanya has fought, and that's going to show big time. Another thing too, Paulo Costa has to cut a lot of weight to get to 185. This guy walks around at 225, 230. He was 215, I believe, this past Monday, and that's what's it got? That's 25 pounds in 1 week. That's a lot of weight. That is a lot of weight to cut. And as you can see in the Yoel Romero fight, he got pretty tired in the second round. Like he was breathing hard and his punches were a little slow. You can't be slow with Adesanya. You cannot be slow with Adesanya. No. That's really bad. So if it makes it out of the first round, for sure, it is Israel Adesanya. If it ends early, Paulo Costa, but I don't think that's going to happen. Israel Adesanya has been knocked out one time, and that was in kickboxing, and by somebody very, 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 very skilled technically within striking. I don't think Paulo Costa is the most elusive striker. He's very body to the head power shots, but not the most technical striking. You got to be very technical with Israel Adesanya. And is he going to take him down? Paulo Costa has taken nobody down in his whole career. I don't think he's going to change it up all of a sudden now, even though he's working with a wrestling coach and a MMA coach and Eric Abarcin, but I don't think that's going to change. So I say Israel Adesanya, second round TKO. Actually, second round KO, not TKO. I think he's going to completely knock him out. What do you got?
It's hard, man. Like I hate to be put on the spot, and like I said, I have no emotion in this. I'm excited. I love being. This is what's so fantastic about being a neutral fan, is that you don't have any emotion aside, so you're just literally looking at a skill. I think it's. I don't have an exact decision just yet. I think but I think it's true what you said. Like if it is going to be Costa, it's gonna be an early knockout, or an early TKO. If it goes past the second round, there's no denying that Adesanya would win that fight, just given his endurance, his defense. So I think that's what it comes down to. Perhaps I'll probably make my prediction that day of the actual fight. But it's hard not to side or it's hard to side against Adesanya. I mean, he's a champion for a reason, and like I said, his overall defense, his speed, his agility, and just being an overall dynamic fighter, I think is what's going to help him out. Whereas Costa, like you said, he's more of a striker, and unfortunately, with strikers, you have to wait for opportunities. Whereas when you're a dynamic fighter as Adesanya, you create those opportunities. So yeah, I guess I'll wait until Friday, but that's definitely going to be a very entertaining fight.
Yeah, and hopefully Costa makes weight. I mean, he's never missed weight before, but it's going to be a tough one, especially flying from Brazil to Vegas to Abu Dhabi. You're holding all that weight. Ugh, too much acai.
What's been so funny about this is that I think you had shared that video of them. I mean, coming into contact. Well, I suppose when they both landed or checked into the hotel, and it seemed cordial and amicable and everything like that. And the next thing you know, they're at the press conference. Of course,
and they're arguing and bickering.
He's just like, oh, I felt his shoulders just to see how dense he is, because he's always made fun of his weight being pudgy, being a bloated Ricky Martin, and so yeah, it's definitely gonna.
You gotta love Adesanya's press conference statements or anything he says. It's just hilarious, and it almost confuses Costa sometimes. He's like, I just saw this guy, he was nice to me, and he shook my hand and felt my body, and now he's being this way. I don't know who he is. This is just so weird. But I feel like it's playing to Adesanya's advantage there with the mental game. So give him a lot of credit for that. But that's going to be an exciting fight. It's the main event on Saturday for the middleweight championship, and we have another championship fight in the co-main event. Dominic Reyes is taking on John Blachowicz for the light heavyweight championship, formerly owned by John Jones, and he relinquished that title a month ago, and they'll be fighting for that. Who you got in this fight, Nick? How do you see this fight going?
Well, I think one thing that's going for Dominic Reyes is that he actually fought well enough that some people thought that he beat John Jones in his last match together. So I think he's got that going for him. But Jan is a scary dude, man. Jan is a scary dude, a big dude, and he really embraces this underdog role. And I think for some reason he's the underdog in this one. I don't think that maybe he's not that heavy of an underdog, but an underdog nonetheless. And I think Jan takes this one.
I'm going to 100% agree with you that Jan is going to take this fight. I think he is better in a lot of other places. He has a good experience with different fighters that he's fought. Dominic Reyes has, he did fight John Jones, who's the best fighter ever in some people's opinions. So he has experience there. But Jan is just, his confidence has been different. His hands have been very heavy, and he has grappling experience more than Dominic Reyes does. And he's been in this MMA game for a very long time. This is a very big fight for Polish MMA. A lot of people are going to be watching. Joanna Jędrzejczyk has sent really good messages to Jan. I see Jan taking it. I think he's going to beat him in a unanimous decision. He's just going to grapple with him a lot, take him down, push him against the cage, and let Dominic Reyes, have that space, because you give Dominic Reyes space, that's where he's really good at. So he's got to back him up. He's got to take him down, which is a hard thing to do. John Jones couldn't even take down Dominic Reyes. But I think Jan will be able to do it. He'll fight smarter. He's going to learn things from that fight from previous. And I think we have a second Polish champion in UFC history in Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's gonna be a very entertaining fight. I don't think it's gonna be. I hope it doesn't go to decision. I really hate decision, especially with the decision making we've had this year. That's my only hope. But I think that it's gonna be an entertaining fight, and I think that Jan hopefully finishes him. I think that if there's gonna be any finish, it's gonna be late. I don't see any early finishes with this fight. I think it would come in the championship rounds between the 4th and the 5th. So I see this one going distance.
Absolutely. And speaking of decision making, UFC's finally made a decision for Mr. Michael Chandler. I just lost that. Chandler is officially with the UFC. Did we announce that last week? I don't think it was still talked
I
about,
think it
right?
was literally like, of course, like always, like it came out
Right
once
after. Well,
naturally.
Michael Chandler has officially signed to UFC. Been waiting for this. Thank God. I got nervous. I was going to sign back with Bellator. We're going to have to see him rematch people that he's fought already. But he's officially with the UFC, and he officially does not have a fight yet. But he's officially, I'll say that again, the backup for Khabib versus Justin Gaethje. If one of them gets injured or falls out, Michael Chandler will be stepping in. No, it's not going to be Poirier. No, it's not going to be Tony Ferguson. They could not come to an agreement with contracts and money. People were asking, does Michael Chandler deserve this to be a backup? Absolutely. He took advantage of an opportunity that was given to two other guys who felt that they need to be paid more. Not to say that they shouldn't. He took advantage of that opportunity. What's wrong with that? Anybody else in that position would do the same exact thing. Michael Chandler has been a champion in his previous organization. He was a top guy there, and he can be a top guy in the UFC. So it's the UFC taking a gamble on somebody like Michael Chandler, and I don't think that's a bad gamble at all.
It's not a bad gamble at all, and I don't blame him either for taking that opportunity. I mean, I don't blame Poirier or Ferguson for wanting more money, but at the same time, I'm not going to blame Chandler, or I'm not going to expect Chandler to pass up on an opportunity for a title shot in his first, whether it be an interim title shot, in his first fight for the UFC. So, and then like this is a guy that's always been talking about that he could beat anybody in his division. So, and in any promotion. So what better way to do that? And this is going to be, I mean, I really hope that neither Justin nor Khabib miss this fight, because we've been waiting for this fight for quite some time. But I mean, this is not going to be a bad consolation prize. It really isn't. I mean, let's say Chandler goes against Gaethje. That's going to be a bloodbath. And then let's say Chandler goes against Khabib. I mean, how crazy would it be? Like, just picture it. How crazy would it be? An undefeated Khabib loses to a newcomer like Chandler. Newcomer not in the game, but in the promotion, obviously. I mean, it's wild to think of it. And then, some people are scared of the opportunity. I'm not saying that necessarily Poirier and Ferguson are. They just wanted more money. But I'm sure there's a lot of people just out of fear wouldn't want to step into that opportunity. And Chandler shows that he's got the balls to do it.
Yeah, and the way that he speaks too, and saying how he can beat Khabib, how he can beat Justin in each facet of the way. You guys should definitely check out that interview he has with Brett Okamoto and Ariel Helwani. He just speaks very well, and he has a lot of confidence when he speaks. And he's an exciting fighter. There's only one way that Michael Chandler goes. He only has one speed, and that's just hardcore. I've never seen a Michael Chandler fight where he's backing up or he's taking his time. No, he's forward. And for him to fight Justin Gaethje in that facet, oh my God, I would love to see that. Him to fight Khabib, and that would be the first wrestler of that stature that Khabib would fight with Michael Chandler. It would be very hard to take him down. I don't see him taking Michael Chandler down. So it'd end up being a stand-up match, and Khabib is not the best striker in that division. He's just very good at dominating guys, especially on the ground. So for him not to have an advantage over a fighter, I would love to see that. So what I hope, of course, just like you said, these fights does not, we see this fight still, but I just hope maybe somehow, some way they come to an agreement with Poirier or Ferguson, and one of them ends up fighting Chandler on the undercard, because there's not a third fight on there. There's a second one. Garbrandt and Figueiredo are fighting in that card, right?
Yeah.
That's a great cool main event, but they need that third fight, and I feel like that'd be great. Or put that on a main event, because that is kind of a 5-round fight that I would love to see with any one of those guys. So I guess they'll figure that out soon, and maybe Dustin Poirier and Tony Ferguson are meant to fight in the main event. Maybe this is a sign for something else or something bigger. So who knows what happens?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, it's true. Like you said, if you lose those guys, right, for whatever, I mean, technically they're not going to lose 3 people, or they're minimizing their chances now that Chandler's officially the backup.
Yeah.
They're minimizing their chances of losing that top fight. But yeah, putting those 2 guys on the card, I mean, why not? That'd be fantastic. Although I guess some people don't like sharing the spotlight, especially when you're trying to convince people that you're worth a certain amount. I think obviously they're going to play the waiting game, and we're not going to see them. But I mean, there's a lot of other fights that we could that you can put in there for that third. I mean, that's October 26th, right?
October 24th.
Or 24th, right?
Yeah.
So it's late October. You have plenty of people that you can fill in there.
Plenty of time.
Leon Edwards is sitting somewhere.
Who?
I'm sure that he can think of Leon Edwards.
Who?
Who's that?
Leon Scott, in the words of Kobe.
Kobe on Burns. Who's that?
Who's that? Huh? Who? What?
But Leon Edwards against maybe a Masvidal, or maybe you get that Masvidal Nate Diaz. As much as I don't want to see that fight,
I don't see it at all.
Maybe you get Colby versus Masvidal on that card. If you really want to blow that shit up,
that would be great. But I don't know. And when you brought the Leon Edwards thing, I wasn't going to say anything about it. But my God, Leon Edwards, if you're listening to somehow, some way, or somebody's listening to that knows him, you got to fight, man. Stop taking vacations while everybody's fighting. They're going to stop remembering you, and they're not going to want to see you fight. Get your name out there. Do something. Stop calling people out to be able to not fight them. I want to see you fight, Leon Edwards. You're on a streak. Continue that streak. I want to see something happen. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Oh my God, I sound like Dana White. We'll see what happens. But anyways, guys, we appreciate you for joining us today. Of course, I know it's a little early, but we're gonna get this out to you by this afternoon. It'll be up. It's on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, whichever way you see it on here. Subscribe, so you get notification when we're on. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Maybe on Saturday we'll check in while the fights are going on. If something crazy happens, maybe we'll jump on Instagram Live. We'll talk about it, or before the main event happens, we'll get you guys' views. But speaking of views, let's get some more on here and more subscriptions. We'll see you guys later. Appreciate you guys. From me, Nick. Later, guys. Oh, and go Lakers.
Yeah, you nervous about tonight?
No, I'm not nervous about tonight.
Everything's nervous about tonight.
Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine.
No, I'll tell you when you get nervous. When the Lakers win tonight and they're up 3-1. That's when you get nervous.
That's why, because Miami Heat are waiting for them.
Apparently that's the remedy for the Nuggets to be down 3-1. Yeah, exactly.
You know what?
If anything, I think it's better for you to go to 2-2 because they haven't come back from that yet. But they've come back
from that. I agree. But I would love to see a Heat versus Lakers finals. That would be amazing. And when the Lakers win, how would you feel, Nick?
If the Lakers win,
when the Lakers win against the Heat.
If the Lakers win, and you know what, I'm of that Goran. Speaking of Lakers and Mamba mentality, I'm of that Goran Dragic mindset. Speaking of UFC fans or MMA fans, I'm of that Goran Dragic mindset that there's nothing to celebrate. There's nothing. I mean, 3-1 is nothing. Obviously, we've seen the Nuggets what they've done with 3-1 leads. So. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously I would be ecstatic if the Heat won. If the Heat lost the final, I think coming back from where they were a couple of years ago since the departure of LeBron James and sort of like the mess that we got ourselves into, and then having to escape from that and making the finals, and especially for Jimmy Butler's cause too, the fact that everybody said that he was going to be on an 8th seed team at best, and yet here we are, one game away from going to the finals. I think that'd be fantastic. So even if we lose the finals, I'd be happy with how, as far as we've gone. Obviously, if the Lakers win, that would be really cool, man. Especially the fact that Kobe passed away this year. Unfortunately, that would mean a lot. And obviously for LeBron James, like I still am a little sour about when he left here and everything like that. But I mean, you can't kind of hate the guy. He's a phenomenal player to be doing this in year 16 or year 17. In year 17 and just having the will and in reality, we all know who the MVP is every year, and that's LeBron James. I guess like maybe marketing wise, they don't want to give it to him. They kind of want to spread the information around of like, oh, these are the other players in the league, but we all know who the best player in the world is right now. And to see him win it, that would be cool. But of course, I'd rather see that banner hanging up at the AAA than at Staples Center.
I will leave us with that message that LeBron James is the MVP every year. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Go Heat, go Lakers. Hope to see something great. We'll see you guys next time. We are out.